Give us the scoop. What's it going to be? If it's not a leaping Jaguar, is it a
It's
rescue?
just the script Jaguar now, and it matches the same script of all four houses of the brand. So Range Rover, Discovery, Defender, and Jaguar all have the same script logo, and even the round oval for Land Rover is going to be diminished in 2026 moving forward.
I'm sorry I asked. That was actually even more boring of an answer than I could have thought it was going to be. All right.
That's why you bring me on, to bore you, Dan, obviously.
Welcome back, everybody, to another action-packed episode of The Wheelhouse. The Wheelhouse, fast, casual, kind of like Applebee's for the automotive news industry, but with better drink specials on Fridays. And joining us on this episode today, going around the horn here, we've got Michael Wood, GM at Checkered Auto Group, Jen Suzuki, President at eDealer Solutions, Erica Bruno, Head of Marketing and Brand Engagement at Global SUV, who I thought of specifically when we started talking about the subject of things you can do to improve your client and employee experience. It won't even cost you a thing, from something you said in one of our previous episodes. So thank you for that. And Kyle Mountsier, COO of ASOTU. I think you have a conference coming up at some point, Kyle. Is that... You're gonna
one of those things?
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
We're gonna something in Baltimore.
A few days of people at the same place in Baltimore in May. You should be there.
That's. You know what I think. All right. I think I will.
Good.
All right. Perfect. All right. And just right before we get started, just remember that we here on the Wheelhouse represent our own views, and they are that of ourselves, not of our employers or companies that we may be affiliated with. And that way we can free up for free discussions that actually matter. So, all right, let me just go around the horn. And how did February line up from what you're seeing in your corner of the industry? Was it what you thought it would be, better or worse, what you had planned for? How did that make sense from what you had planned to what you actually saw? And just from even whatever corner in the industry you're at, what it looked like. So, Michael, we'll go ahead and start with you.
It was a little bit down as far as fixed operations, which, I'm hearing that across the board that, just the count and repair orders are just down. As far as our effective labor rate, everything's looking great. We're just not getting as many bodies through the shop as we'd like to. A year and a half ago, we probably had a 4-month wait to get in for service. We can do diag today, so it's definitely not just the proficiency of the department that has increased. It's also something going on with the actual economy when it comes to fixed ops. Variable operations still going great. VW, it's a little bit tighter. Major margin compression, as we said last time, but the JLR, it's still going strong. With the Range Rover Sport filling in the big needs right now.
All right. I think maybe what you're seeing in fixed ops, I'd suggest that maybe that's a little bit localized in that part of the country. It's not the same as what we're doing elsewhere.
Yeah, we were talking with a couple of guys from like Dealer Tire and stuff like that, and they're telling us that in the Hampton Roads market and down in Raleigh, that's what he was seeing as well. But it's definitely it's been frustrating. Across our entire platform, we saw the same level of decrease, which was not fun.
All right, Jen, you travel almost every day, if not every week. And tell me what you're seeing, what February looked like based off what you were thinking it was going to be.
I think February is like a traditional month. I didn't see anything like, I didn't see like big superstar months. I didn't feel that they were below average. I just thought it was, regular February.
Was the energy there? You think?
I mean, the energy is there because people are worried. More than anything, I see people are worried about the team and not performing, losing opportunities. People always say this and they say it all the time. Our salespeople don't know how to sell. And so they're still saying that. So, but
it's always, as long as they keep saying it, at least they're consistent. All right. It's
stop calling them salespeople then or something. I don't know.
30 seconds up for you, Erica Bruno.
It's ironic that you had this because literally my entire weekend were these type of conversations where basically, February was decent. My parents have a Toyota and a Hyundai store. Sales was decent. Actually, service starting to see profit, go down a little bit, but still having the volume there. And then some of the other dealers that I talk to all the time, it's been mixed. It's been a little bit of, again, I think we've had some of this, now we're getting more inventory and customers are starting to go, okay, do I really want this or do I really need this? And you gotta create that energy. You gotta create that need.
All right. 30 seconds, Kyle.
Yeah. I mean, being a marketer, I'll speak to that side. I work with and track a lot of dealers and their website traffic as well as lead traffic. And we saw in the last 7 to 8 days of February a definite increase across the board, almost, at least on the ones that I'm tracking. So it seems like pace of engagement, at least online, which typically has about a 30 to 60 day timeline to see what we see in the showroom, is already pacing up. So that's a good sign into March and April. First half of the month was down over January, but then second half of the month rebounded that because of that last 7 to 8 days. So I'm excited about that.
All right, and we're gonna get into a couple of headlines also that we've seen here within the last day or so. And first of all, coming out of Kelley Blue Book, Tesla grabs the top spot for brand loyalty and for conquest, which I don't think the conquest portion is new. Honestly, I think if Katy Perry were to redo that song, it might sound like "I Bought a Tesla," not necessarily "Kissed a Girl." But what is, so between them winning that for loyalty and for conquest, what are we looking for? Does this mean anything in the used car market? Any information we can use in the stores? More surprising, I thought, than Tesla on that same article, Lincoln grabbing so many spots on there, and biggest dealer loyalty goes to Nissan. That might not have been the actual title of that award, but go ahead, take it away. And who's got what?
Yeah, I mean, I'll jump in and say that because I worked for Nissan for years, I'm not surprised with the dealer loyalty. I think Nissan does a really good job of trying to engage their customers and bring them back through the showroom, both on the sales side and through financing. So I wasn't overly surprised. And plus, once you get into a Rogue, it's really hard to get out of a Rogue, I feel like.
Because it's not.
I think they have good price cars.
It's a struggle as far as a personal problem. Yeah, that's the.
I think they're priced right, though, for what's happening with affordability and people having a hard time, getting into, a lower car payment. Nissan does have the product for that market.
And I think the other part of that, too, is like it's showing that there's a demand for these alternative fuel vehicles, whether it's a third car, second car, whatever. So if I was a dealer, I would be going, okay, what's it doing in my market per se? And how do I, train my salespeople to not lose out to those opportunities either?
Yeah, no, I'd have to agree. I think the loyalty thing was a little surprising. Like the conquest, yeah, that makes perfect sense. But, take my brand, for instance, the Range Rover. It's not synonymous with being the highest quality, but the customer just keeps coming back and back and back. And that's because of the brand equity that the brand has. And it's interesting to see how quickly Tesla has been able to get that kind of brand equity that's synonymous with like a Range Rover or a Mercedes or Nike or whatever. It is interesting to see the loyalty, because I personally don't think that the quality is all that great with the product. It's not like it's hitting home runs. It's the Range Rover of EV. It's weird.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah.
I think this is the first time we've seen like a car maker like so public, out there in social media. And I think that he brings a lot of awareness. My kids, they're young. They know who Elon Musk is. They do not know who, Ford is. They do not know who's running General Motors. I just wonder if that has a part to play with it too.
Right, both ways though. I mean, it's been shown that he also can, like, if you're going by stock price, it's obviously
impact stock price. Yep.
Yeah, he impacts stock price. That in itself is unique. You really don't have. You're right. You don't have anyone that's like one in the head and body of the company that affects the stock price of their company that they work for. And Kyle, I saw you had something. I didn't want to cut you off.
Yeah, I need someone to fact check me on this. Maybe we can do this post show, but I believe the Tesla owner loyalty was actually down 3% year over year, according to the S&P Global report, which is what this Market Watch report is that we have in the show notes. So just as a key piece of information here is the segment competitors are very, very small for Tesla. And so you kind of have a forced brand loyalty to early electric vehicle adopters. So just watch that to change as we get new market competitors in that segment. Because if you look across the other segments, and especially like the same report, the S&P report that this points to showed that even though truck buyers were the most loyal to trucks, they were not extremely brand loyal. And so when you see high competition in a market segment, you typically see a lot of movement within makes, not particular, and knowing that people are staying like segment loyal, maybe not make loyal. So that's just like something I think we should track as an industry over time to understand where people are going.
Yeah,
Are they
Tesla,
simply going to Tesla because it's Tesla, or because it's the only thing available in the segment?
no, I think, well, two things. One, at the beginning, yeah, I agree. First of all, yeah, it was an S&P Global report. Sorry, it was Kelly Blue Book that picked it up, but it was an S&P Mobility Global report. I think Tesla's market share hasn't dipped to reflect either of those other numbers, meaning one group is coming up higher than the other internally because they still own their own market. And I truly do still believe that Tesla is its own market. My final thought on that. If you're at a traditional dealership right now and you're so pissed off when you walk out and you're like, that's it, I'm buying a Tesla or leasing a Tesla, you can go on your app, you can go on Tesla's website, and you will know when your car is going to be delivered to you and lock into your payment right then and there. And it won't take you more than 2 minutes to put down the deposit and order the car and select where you want to pick it up from. And so this maybe actually, as much as Tesla isn't necessarily an emotional car, I'm curious how much emotion is actually driving the purchase experience, because it's so easy. It's literally in the moment of rage, you can walk out of your dealers, turn in your lease, and go ahead and get a Tesla. Speaking of Teslas, the first flipped Tesla Cybertruck, not flipped like it went off-roading, not flipped like it was a Corvette exiting a Cars and Coffee. No, flipped like the guy bought it and then sent it to an auction and sold it. And that first Tesla Cybertruck that happened to is just listed for sale at the dealership. And normally this wouldn't even be news if it wasn't for automotive news pointing out how much that car was sold for at auction. And it's now listed at the Porsche dealership that bought it, listed for sale at what dollar amount, and then also calculating for everybody what the estimated markup would be for that. Are we seeing the first instance of a vehicle being doxed from the minute it was purchased at auction to sold at a dealership? Or should be the level of attention we pay to all cars? Or should this fall in line with the idea of transparent pricing? And I'm not exactly sure, but help me make up my mind.
You know what's interesting? Couple things on this. One is it was out on social media well before automotive news picked it up. So interesting that someone that was actually in the auction shared that. I believe on LinkedIn, or maybe it was Reddit first. So wild that like someone internally in auto is willing to kind of like make that move. The other pieces is I think the seller was actually through consignment through I can't remember the name of the company, but it's a company we would all know. The last piece is actually a week before this happened. I don't know if you guys know Alex Lawrence. He runs EV Auto. It's an EV only dealership. He actually posted a 7-minute video walking all the way through his like V-Auto appraisal into the Mannheim auto auction, watching the auto bids come live, all the way into. So like this level of transparency, I believe, is probably going to hit the market in a massive wave. So as an industry, we're going to have to like live up to the proof of why pay profit margin, and that the profit margin is almost on display on used cars, which we've always kind of had the in our back pocket.
I've actually been watching this guy on TikTok. He, has really blown up his used car lot business in the last, year, strictly off of TikTok. Are you following him, George Zabila? Interesting. So same thing. I watch him, bring people in to show their highline luxury cars. He's buying them and he's showing them everything, going through every single book value, every insider thing that we would never share with somebody, and just hitting them with it. And this guy's acquiring, a lot of cars. I mean, I'm impressed. I like watching this guy. But to your point, I think we're going to start to see more of that. How do you dispute?
You came from a negotiation-free background, right, Kyle? I mean, when you made the switch and your team leaders were all of a sudden just being like, here, you can take them the invoice. I mean, I remember doing that the first couple of times for some of our product specialists. And they're like, I can actually show that to them? I mean, yes, absolutely. You 100% can show it to them because our prices are priced, and here you go.
Yeah.
All right. I just, first of all, I'm going to pitch this idea now, but I can't wait for us to bring back like an American Gladiator type series, except it's just all of these people and Brian Kramer, and they have to appraise and buy as many cars as they can. And we're going to go to New York, or we'll just put them on like consecutive avenues, right? Like this one's on 3rd, this one's on 5th, this one's on 8th. Like we'll just have them just run down and see how many cars they can buy. And I just want to crown the top winner from that. But moving on to our next quick story here, Jaguar, the car brand. You know them as the other people at a Range Rover store. They are making their final run for both, and what a double whammy here. ICE SUVs are done, and that's going to be it. And from then on, all they're going to make are EV SUVs. And that's all. I'm struggling again because I'm not battery. No one's ever said that battery electric in its current form is going to be the most sustainable type of fully electric vehicle that we're going to have. But someone at Jaguar has decided this is what we're going to do. And Michael, you can feel free to abstain from this if you feel that, or if you'd like to represent, since you're going to have to sell these cars, then maybe you want to start and go first.
I think I can provide a little bit of insight. So last year when I was at the Global Retailer Conference, they kind of opened the curtain and gave us an idea of where we're heading in the world of Jaguar Reimagined. And the idea, like in America, we usually sell about 12,500 Jaguars. With the new ones coming out for the model year 2026, the intent is to sell around 7,000 to 7,500, excuse me. And so they're trying to lower their market share when it comes to it, but we're going to substantially upstream the price point. So when they come to market with the new ones, they're going to be around $150,000. Now, the big difference here is we're going away from this idea of a mass production luxury vehicle that we're not, and going back to the heritage of what we are, which is leading edge when it comes to design, pushing the edge when it comes to the drivability aspect. The new ones that are coming out when we go fully electric, 0 to 80% charge on the first model, the GT 4-door, in 16 minutes. It'll have a 430 mile range, 0 to 60 in about 2.2 seconds is what they've told us. There'll be no metal, no plastics, no leather in the entire vehicle. It's got its eye on sustainability. So I think what we're seeing with Jaguar is recognizing that there is some power in not being volume. And if you want to tie your hat on this whole EV thing, then make it a niche EV. Make it that EV that isn't your daily driver, but it speaks to that client that has 3, 4, 5, 6 cars, and then they want to take their wife or their husband out for a nice dinner and show off. That's what this car is going to be, because I saw them in person. And I mean, they're ridiculously beautiful. They're going to be polarizing.
So I got from that, sell half the amount of cars, and then that's a good way to do it. Okay. No, I mean, that's
double the price. Half the cars, double the price.
All the way around.
Yeah. So we went from a $55,000 average price point to $150,000. So triple the price, half the cars.
Not only are we
goes up,
ladies and gentlemen, we're also going to get.
My question is can they
straight out of Pure One imports?
Can they really get the brand? Can they get the brand there?
Yeah.
It's
they were like you said, they were a legacy brand. They would have to do something better than Toys R Us is doing.
Oh,
right?
big time. They would. I mean, look, it's been done before, so we'll give them a little hope. But they've fallen off. I don't even know who Jaguar is. I don't know anybody that drives a Jaguar. So to be able to build that brand value back up to 150K, I mean, I hope that the brand, advocates are as eager as you, because I feel what you're saying. I feel the energy. It's just that brand it was like a Buick. It died, and it needs a rebirth. But you have to do some. I don't know who that market is, anymore. But
I think that we'll see the price point come back down. Because originally they were talking about 100.
Go after a Gen Z. I think they're going to have to go after a Gen Z,
You're gonna have to go after a much younger.
Yeah. Almost be on my guard with.
Yeah, Erica, go ahead.
I was going to say, you're going to go much younger. You got to implement social media, influencers. You got to have the right people in the car at the right time. And that's the thing that I think a lot of OEMs, all of a sudden, it's like they're waking up, from like a, sleepy dream of like, oh, now we've got to, play in this realm. And it's like, you probably should have played in that realm 3 years ago. But yeah, let's do this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So these are all great slogans, I feel like, coming out for Jaguar out of this show. And they should contact us if they want to use any of them, right? Like, especially for that, if that's the demographic, they're going to, like, Jaguar. Mid no more, right? And then that'll make sense to who needs to buy it, and then that'll just work from there. But I do like also, Jen, I'll give you credit on this one, the British Buick. Like that a lot. That was good.
I think the one sad thing that comes out of all this, unfortunately, in the new marketing, is the leaping Jaguar logo goes away, which is kind of, for me, it's a little sad to me.
That's so iconic. Why can't you
we're gonna go back to the heritage. We're gonna go back to the heritage, guys. There's also a whole new brand marquee coming. What is the Jaguar do?
You mean a manufacturer that can talk out of both sides of their mouths?
What is he? What is it? What's
Oh,
wait? Give us the scoop. What's it going to be? If it's not a leaping Jaguar, is it a
It's just the script Jaguar now, and it matches the same script of all 4 houses of the brand. So Range Rover, Discovery, Defender, and Jaguar all have the same script logo, and even the round oval for Land Rover is going to be diminished in 2026 moving forward.
I'm sorry I asked. That was actually even more boring of an answer than I could have thought it was going to be.
That's why you bring me on, to bore you, Dan, obviously.
Clearly. Wrapping up our headline section, Motor Trend. I know they have Car of the Year, and I didn't know that they did Person of the Year. So correct me if I'm wrong, but apparently they do. And this year, the winner, and I would love to know who the contestants were, or at least the finalists. The winner this year is none other than President of the UAW, Shawn Fain, who we might remember from everything else earlier this year. Does anyone know, were there any, who did he beat out? Genuinely speaking, like who did he beat for that spot? Or did Motor Trend, did you guys just come up with this like right now? And then you just needed a Person of the Year, and that the first year ever you're doing this and you gave it to him?
I mean, here's the thing though, like when it comes to auto, okay. So I guess the qualifier is, what does Person of the Year mean? But as far as like influential, on top of the news, the person that got talked about the most, the person who influenced the major market players in the US the most, it's absolutely true.
And I think,
I don't know how else to say it.
Okay. All right.
I was going to say, whether you love him or hate him, you have to give him credit that he didn't play by the rules that he historically.
Yeah. He's broke them all.
He broke them all. And GSD got shit done.
He did crazy, remarkable things, really. He
really
didn't
did.
care.
He leveraged social media. He leveraged, the people that would be part of it. And I think that's something where, he was a leader who saw his opportunity, and he took his opportunity.
We'll see how
the real barometer will end up being is, do any of the Toyota the manufacturing facilities, do they end up signing cards? And if they do, then I fully agree with this title, because if he's able to move the needle and get Toyota manufacturing to unionize, when I've kind of always felt like they've kind of been the litmus test for how to do it right. They kind of look forward and say, how can we prevent our employees from having to unionize? Well, by providing a phenomenal work environment. If he's able to convince that workforce to unionize, he deserves the title.
And I didn't even have
I just looked. This is crazy. The 3 previous years were all CEOs of OEMs. So kind of landmark there, at least in the last 4 years.
But because he was able to control the OEMs. I mean, think about it. Who in the last few years has been able to dictate the OEMs?
Well, to the big 3, right?
Yeah.
I mean, which are sort of like the largest big 3 at the moment, right? But also, I think from taking a point about Toyota, so there is actually an article, I didn't have it for the show, but Toyota, off of record-breaking profits, is now also helping out their suppliers, giving them grants to improve their working and manufacturing conditions, truly, so they can keep up with the production demand that Toyota is going to be giving them as Toyota is continuing on record-breaking pace. But for them to also be essentially subsidizing, not just incentivizing, but subsidizing their supplier network, somewhere along the lines, I'm wondering if that's not just, that's true, but that's not also just Toyota armoring up against unions inside of its supply chain, in which case, obviously, then I tip my hat to them even further. There's another great article also that Wall Street, as an opinion article on Business Insider, that Wall Street actually probably owes Toyota an apology for all the times that people said they were lagging behind in EV technology, that they're actually going to wind up being one of the smarter ones in the room. But we're going to move on. Let's go to our in-depth discussion. We've got a perfect panel for this. So a lot of times we're talking about things that could be an investment in resources, and we want to make our dealerships better. Give me something that costs me nothing but time and effort that will improve the guest experience, the client experience in my dealership, that will cost me absolutely not $1, and I can start tomorrow. Give me at least one item like that, and go ahead, whoever's got it.
I would say remember people. That's one of the biggest challenges I see in the sales process. And it's because there's a lot of sales BDC, for example, who is initiating the relationships. And then the customers are coming in off their driving forces to follow up with people. They find out all the deets on people. They build they are the relation. They're the first impression. They're the brand. And then there's no warm transfer to the person that's going to be working with them. And a lot of times, just the dealership is devalued, and the business model is it's just fallen short. So remember people.
Yep.
One of the ones I would focus on, which we're trying to right now, is that informality isn't formal. Like, you have to earn it. And, with all of our clients that are coming in, I'm asking my staff to stop calling them Mike. It's Mr. Wood or Mrs. Wood. And only at the point in which they allow you to call them by their first name, should you pivot to it. I was brought up that way. My dad was a Marine, but you just don't see it that way, that happening that often anymore. And there's a lot of power in calling them Mr. and Mrs. as opposed to just assuming that you have the right to call them by their first name.
I love that.
That's an interesting topic.
Yeah.
You're in a heavy military area as well, though, too, right?
Yeah.
Which that always makes sense. I mean, as soon as I see military, I always want to address people this way. But in general, that's not how I do it.
Erica, go ahead.
I was going to say it's empathetic discipline, meaning, you are training your staff to ask the right questions. I feel like that's a huge thing I've been hearing lately, where people are like, I don't know what to say on the phone. As simple as, hey, Mr. Smith, what do you like about your, 2017 Rogue? Did it come with floor mats? Did it come with this? Like, asking the questions and being diligent about it. So that way you can then bring them into another car that all of a sudden, hey, you got the all-weather floor mats that I told you about. Of course, Mr. Smith, I listened to you, and being disciplined enough, exactly like Michael said, of like, you earn that respect, you earn their business. And I think that's something where I know for me, like, all the conversations I've been having the last week is like, I worry about anybody who maybe didn't have phone skills or didn't have that type of training prior, because they're really going to be struggling as we start to get into a more compressed market.
True.
All right, I'm gonna give a little bit of one that might not make sense, but hopefully it does in the end. Is I call it clean the corners. So this is like a literal, physical cleaning of the corners of every corner in the dealership. Like deep into, like, if you see a corner in the dealership, make sure it's clean of dust, of paper, of anything. Like, if it's a corner, if it's under a desk and it's a corner of a desk, find that spot, clean that spot. It will teach your customers and your employees that level of attention to detail is extremely important to you. And so it actually enhances the guest experience when they're in the store, because that's the first place you look. But it also enhances the employee experience because they feel great about the place that they work. And then it teaches your employees that if you're that meticulous about the corners of the dealership, that you're probably that meticulous about everything else that they're doing in a given day. So clean your corners.
And luxury is in the details, right? I mean, at Patrick's store, at Beaver Toyota, they could sell anything. And the brand is almost irrelevant because they understand, like, that's exactly what they do, is like the details that they pay attention to, the level in which they pay attention to it. And I like what you said also about the trade. One of my favorite things to do is be like, what did you like most? You said yes to a salesperson at some point and you bought your trade. What did you like? What did you like? What was the thing that drew you to it? What did you like the most about it?
And not being afraid to, if they didn't have a good experience or they didn't like something about it, talk to me about that. What could we improve on straight from the customer's mouth?
Yeah, encourage actual conversation. Like, encourage actual, talk to each other.
That's
like
huge.
That's
That's so necessary. I mean, I totally agree with you. I'll tell you one last thing that seems to it continues to be a problem, but it can make all the difference. And I just say, I know it sounds so basic. It is, but people should smile more and they should bring a little bit more energy to the sales process, because people are just low energy vibes in a lot of places. I really truly mean this from even like at the service department perspective. A lot of people are not smiling. They don't remember people are coming in. They don't remember their past business. They don't remember their decline work. It's not just the handoff from BDC to sales, but everybody, plays a part in making that customer feel welcomed and valued and appreciated.
right. And show that they're appreciated. All right. Well, right. Moving. Right. I got it. I'd like to see your face. I'd like to see everyone's face on here. Like when I was just talking to somebody the other day and they told me, like, don't worry, my internet process buttoned down. I have great templates. That's roughly what I thought I was going to say. Okay.
Oh, man.
Fortunately, I'm much more professional and politically correct, so I didn't handle it that way. But
are they handwriting ROs still too?
Shag carpet in the waiting area.
All right, we're gonna move on into a recurring segment we're starting here because we know that dating is such an important thing, and relationship advice is one of the biggest topics anywhere. Do we still have the intro music for this, or was that just for the first episode?
Woo! A game show. More like a game show.
All right. Well, it's not even. It's more about the dating game. So we're gonna go around the horn, right? And give me, and if you have more than one, give me a couple, and then we'll wait till we come back around. But some signs that maybe your dealership just isn't that into you, and these could also be some red flags that you could see as a dealership team member, salesperson, or otherwise. That maybe it's time for me to look for another relationship. All right. So Kyle, I know you're bursting at the seams, so let's go ahead and start with you.
Yeah, if your break room coffee is Folgers, your dealership probably just isn't that into you.
Oh,
yeah, you should at least have some Starbucks by now.
Minimum.
Okay. Erica?
If everyone looks the same, acts the same, does the same thing, it's probably not for you, babe.
Jen?
I think you really have to focus on caring about people. I say it all the time. Care about your customers, care about your team members. It always strikes me as odd when leadership doesn't know people in the organization, doesn't remember things about them, doesn't ask them about their family. And then they're probably not doing one-on-ones with people either, but people really need one-on-ones today. And they like it when you ask about their family, or you remember, a health crisis, or you remember something about them. If leadership doesn't remember who you are, they're not doing one-on-one coaching, I would say that's a red flag.
All right. Michael?
I'd say if your dealership doesn't have a roadmap for your future or success, or you don't see anybody else around you with a roadmap for their future or success, that's probably not the right dealership for you.
Excellent. I love that.
I'll add one as it's auto show season. If you worked an auto show shift over the weekend and no manager came to check on you, you need to just go look for another home.
Oh boy.
If you only got assigned a shift, but no one brought you coffee or food, or even just came to see just how you doing or anything, and they just let you work that Sunday 2 to close shift on the last day of the auto show, go see what's out there. There's people that are hiring good talent.
Oh, brutal.
Kyle, did you have one more that you wanted to? You said you had a few. I didn't want.
I mean, I got a lot, but I feel like I'm going to be back on the show at some point, so I'm going to have to.
Name your second.
I'll give you my second one. If your sales manager tells someone to chase them, if their sales manager tells you to chase someone down in the parking lot instead of doing it themselves because they messed up, they're probably not that into you, yo.
Oh.
Absolutely. I think we'll also start including phrases, right? We're going to do this exactly like relationship advice, right? Red flags and phrases, right? If your morning meeting consists of just being told to pound the phones, which is unpleasant as that sounds like, that probably happens in a lot of places. You may need to see somewhere else to go. Any last ones? Anyone else want to throw one out there?
Negative culture. That's a bad vibe. I see it happen, enough where it's if the managers come in with neg vibes and, it's constantly criticizing, it's constant, we're not doing enough. That's a tough place to work every day, especially when you got to grind it out. You need a coach, a mentor,
you have to pay for your
some cheerleaders up in here.
If you have to pay for your own business cards, bye, Felicia.
Oh, wow.
Speaking for the ladies, if you show up to the dealership and I think Eric said earlier, there's no other females on the floor, probably not the place for you.
If you feel like you're in an episode of Mad Men, it is not the place for you.
That depends on who it is, though, right? I mean,
I don't know. Yeah. There's some places that feel like that, but that's okay.
I mean,
maybe not for you, but some others.
Right. I mean, if you feel if it's okay for you to be Roger in your place of work, and that's good for, then, God bless. We thought that really was just a mythical character.
I just want to be Joan. So.
How about when managers tell you need to go to training, but they don't show up to the training themselves? Because
buyer. Yes, absolutely.
That's the real one.
Right. Go do the training. And then they're not there.
That's the way we've always done it.
Yeah. Oh God, that's the worst. Yeah. Yeah. Or to the point that was said earlier, it's a lot of times people still are being onboarded and they have no, not only what you were saying, with they should have a career path, tell me what your goal is, your next level, but how do I get there? What's the process to get there? How do I be successful in this organization? Show me how to do it.
Right.
My God, I started selling cars 20 years ago. Nobody gave me a game plan. Still, there's not a lot of game plans out there.
Our industry is so starved for mentorship and training in general that we talk about that a lot in WOCAN of just like, how do you find a right mentor? How do you get the right mentor? And it's really, really critical, especially for females in this industry, to have a champion and a mentor. So I would say if you can't find that in a dealership, that's definitely a red flag.
Yeah. And we'll save some. We'll save some. All right. Go ahead, Jen. I don't want to cut you off.
Oh no, it just got me thinking, a lot of the managers that are on the desk, it's easy to point fingers, but a lot of times they were salespeople that were really good. And then they got into these roles. And then leadership didn't show leadership, how to be a leader. We're just expecting them to be mentors. Like they don't know how to be mentors. They don't know how to coach. They don't know how to train. So I do think there's a big gap in the industry for helping managers learn how to be, that leader that we want them to be. People
my
want
mentor
them
told me one time when he promoted me, he said, you get to now be the manager that you want to work for, not the one that you have worked for. And I was like, it really helped me out because it helped me identify all the things that I hate. And I'm like, I'm never going to be that guy. And unfortunately I was in the beginning and it took a little while, but
Right. So listen, if you're out there and your talent that's wasting away in an organization, reach out. I mean, seriously, you can DM us, you can leave a comment. There are good dealers out there. That's the thing you have to believe. There are good dealers out there. Most of them show up on the Wheelhouse. So that's something to look forward to for the next episode. We'll see everybody else here in another 2 weeks. That way. There you go. We'll see everybody here in another 2 weeks on another episode of the Wheelhouse. Thank you everyone for joining us. See you soon.